critical. So there's no way you're going to set out to achieve a level of very fundamental, irreversible change if you don't understand the fundamentals driven by empirical evidence. So what we have done is, while there's this question around whether the states have enough power, we are more focused on meeting the social contract that is in his agreement with the people. And what that means is that very fundamental things that came up, like for instance in Enugu, for over 2 decades, there was no water in Enugu state. But the governor, on assumption of office, said that in 180 days, and this is the difference between when governors come into power and they give some highfalutin promises that they have no plans of meeting, and those that drive their commitments based on empirical evidence on data. So what we have set out to do was to set out a trajectory that allows us to build in milestones to track performance. So now you know that strong institutions also have to do with capacity. We're very aware that the current system in the public service may not have the right capacity, so we're able to start at the very beginning to get the right support from outside to strengthen what was within, and also to track the growth of those that are within towards that key element, which was to provide water for Enugu in 180 days. And it seemed like 2 decades of problems being solved in 180 days. But at the end of 180 days, Enugu State was able to have close to 60,000 cubic liters coming into Enugu. It's never been done before, over 2 decades. But the fundamentals was that we didn't set on that journey by just giving a promise that there was no plan to achieve. So the state governors have fundamental powers. They have enough power to be able to fulfill some of the promises if they want to. It's important if they want to. So when a governor is committed to meeting his obligations, for instance, reducing the poverty headcount, which is one of the key things, you have to ask yourself what policies can actually achieve that. So if you're going to try private investors, we said we were going to move the GDP from $4.4 billion to $30 billion over the next 4 to 8 years. This is not a promise that is easy to achieve if you don't do the fundamentals, attract the private sector to drive and catalyze growth. Like I was sharing with the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, and he said to me, how do you drive this without security? How do we drive this without energy, power, which is one of the key areas that make companies not to be competitive? Why would they come to Enugu State? So the first thing he did was tackle insecurity. Now we don't have the powers, so to speak, to have state security, but we do have the powers to collaborate with existing security agencies and have the political will to do what was not easily done before. So the governor has political will. He had the right type of collaboration with security agents. He had the right type of team to drive it. Professor Tommy has been pushing value-based leadership. So at the very beginning, the governor said, what will be the core values that can help me drive the team that I have gathered? So he set out with 4 key areas. First was meritocracy. He felt to hire the right people. And so it wasn't just meritocracy of recruitment, it was also meritocracy of ideas. So the ideation and the people was one of the key things. He felt like respect was critical. The next thing was team spirit, not just teamwork, so that we work collaboratively in areas and support one another. And this is around the key things. And finally, what are we going to define success to mean to the people of Enugu State, and also create this regional market that we were pushing for? So the last was excellence. This catalyzed the process of our process from ideation to transaction close. So governors do have the power if they choose to. Thank you.
Excellent. Listening to the SSG of Enugu State, all you are saying seems to say you took some of the things. So we thank Professor Ostobu for that excellent book. So let me now take it back to His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi. You are a governor and you ran for president. And this question actually relates to you and Senator Tambua. And in relation to his view and Senator Abaribe's comment, I want to ask you, when you were governor, and even from your experience, when important decisions that will affect the generality of the people are being taken by the president, is there normally proper consultation with the governing assembly before decisions are taken? The reason why I'm asking this is because if you look at the current situation we have in Nigeria, fuel subsidy has been removed, Naira has been floated, and we are now in a very serious crisis. So my question to you, during your own time as a governor, did the president consult in this kind of important decisions, and what did you do?
Obasanjo's presidency, Yar'Adua's presidency, to what we have today, period. Under General Obasanjo, the governor was in charge of the security. I, for one, requested that every DPO, for rank of DPO, to commission in Anambra be removed. And it happened. I said every DPO, I didn't say assistant commissioner, from DPO of police, that I don't want to see them in Anambra State again. That I want to have a commissioner of police. And that I am taking decision, everything that happened in security in Anambra State, including pulling people's house down, I did it with the authority of the president. And every month, there's a conversation between the president and the governor. And it happened under Yar'Adua. I remember telling a governor when Buhari was there, I said, how can you be arguing with people? Can't you talk to the president? He looked at me as if I was speaking. As I go to the president and request something. So there is a difference in between collaboration and authority. It's totally different. Like Sule said, if the president decides that things will work, it's like this insecurity. It's either you're in charge or you're not in charge. If we are at war, we declare war. When I came to Anambra State, everybody knew. People were collecting money in the street. People were doing all sorts of things. Some lunatics took over our park. I went to Obasanjo. I said, listen, if you don't want me to be governor, I go home. If I must be governor, I will be in charge here. He said, Mr. Young man, just don't do things that will be very distant. And I went home. In 1 week, they have 3 DIG of police. Okino, Ono for everybody in Anambra State. And he was shot. What are you doing? I said, listen, sir, this man is problematic. We must bring everything down. So, the president has to decide whether bandits will take over the country or not. The governors have to now work with him. Governors have to be in charge of their state and hold them responsible if you want to govern. Just like what he said about corruption. The same thing. So, in my own time, I would say it, under Yar'Adua, under Yar'Adua it was even better. Yar'Adua asked me to go and remove a village. I said, listen, I have a problem with this village. He called the 2 governors. I said, we must demolish everything here. When I became governor, I'm happy that a revered traditional ruler of Onitsha is there. Obi of Onitsha. There was a place called Apaka Forest. That was where all the criminals are. And I said, see this forest, President, I want to level it. I don't want it to be a forest again. He said, do whatever you want. Today is the best habitable place in the area of Onitsha. We will level it. Everybody go. But the president gave us authority. He didn't say no, you have to take it easy. He said go and level it if that is what you want to do. So you need a president who is determined, gives the governor authority, the governor takes the authority and go and do it. Like Sule said, if the president decides today to stop corruption, you don't need the FCC. If you're not stealing, your wife is not stealing, your children are not involved, you reduce it by 60%. Everybody will run for cover. But when your wife, your children, everybody is doing their own, people will help them. And that's what is happening. You know? We are talking about the issue of foreign exchange. We can't just, a currency of a country is one of the things that make that country. Today, our country has been terrorized by people in government. You put a law that if any official is here, found with dollar, you go to jail. No more dollar transaction here. I'm not, those who are importing goods can use dollar. We have naira, we have currency, we should be proud of it. But when people in government are now the ones spending dollar, spraying it, doing everything, you hold the whole system. People used to disagree with presidents. Governor Atta is there. They were disagreeing with Obasanjo. They quarreled, and everybody, even in our meeting, I've been in a meeting where Obasanjo will end the meeting by quarreling with the governors. After quarrel, they walk away, this walk away. Today, governors can't walk away on the president. Because if they walk away, they don't know where they're going to end. But they used to walk away on Obasanjo. Yeah, so these are the things. You must have a system that works. When they were there, Obasanjo will call meeting, they won't come. Because they believe that there were systems. Today it was like the governors are now household. If the president said this thing, everybody runs for cover. It shouldn't be. They are governors of their own states. And they govern their own states. Like it's in America, we borrow the democracy from them. We should practice it like them. No governor goes to take permission or shouts when Biden can say anything. You know, so these are the issues that we need to deal with. Thank you.
You know, rule of law is key to sustainable economic growth and development. And Nigeria is not doing well in that. And let me take it now to the election. So how do you assess the 2023 election? And what other electoral reforms do you think that we need to bring about better elections in Nigeria?
Well, I will attempt to answer. And when you ask my elder brother here, Peter Obi, the last question, and you indicated that I was going to make some comment. I think I will go back to that first. While in office, somewhere in 2016, we were invited for breaking a fast by President Muhammadu Buhari. And unfortunately, my colleague, who was then also the chairman of Nigeria Governors Forum, Abdulaziz Yari Abubakar of Zamfara, had traveled for Lesser Hajj. But before he did that, out of frustrations, he came out to make a public statement that he had resigned from being the chief security officer of Zamfara State. So when we were done with the breaking of fast, President Buhari was seeing us off. As I shook his hands, he asked me, looking straight into my eyes, "Why is your friend that is always complaining?" I said, "My friend had traveled to Saudi Arabia." But Mr. President, he is not just crying and complaining. There is real and present danger in Zamfara, and there is the need for you to really intervene. He's not just complaining. He said, "Really?" I said, "Yes, sir. I will allow you to interpret what that means to you." Now, my experience, whether I was being consulted on policies, Sokoto borders 3 regions, that is 3 states in Niger Republic: Tawa, Doso, and Maradi. We have the longest border with Niger Republic than any other state in Nigeria. When President Muhammadu Buhari decided to close down borders, no governor was consulted. 3 of the governors of those regions individually called me to say what's happening. I said, "My brother, I'm sorry, I don't know." Every effort I made to reach out to the NSA, because I was told that the instruction came from the office of the NSA, I couldn't reach him. The only person I was able to reach was the then CG of Immigration, Babandede, who was able to give me some insights. So no consultation whatsoever on such a very key and important economic and security issue. Because Niger and Nigeria had by then a security pact that the military from Nigeria can pursue insurgents and bandits up to some certain miles into Niger Republic. That's what they call hot pursuit. Vice versa. And then you shut the borders. So you could see that I was left with no answers. So consultations are not necessarily as frequent as they are supposed to be. And on the issue of security, powers of the government. Yes, in terms of developmental issues in your state, yes, you have the control of the resources. You can come up with policies, but then you can only implement those policies, no matter how good, if the state is safe and secure. The all and most important ingredient for any development is security. Governors don't have control over security. They don't. They post to you, Commissioner of Police, at their whims and caprices, and they deal with you and relate with you as they deem fit. So it's not about collaboration. It's beyond collaboration. Matters of security, governors are supposed to be hands-on because they are the ones dealing with the live issues of ensuring that people are secured. And it's not the case. So there is the need for us to restructure and devolve more powers to the governors so that they can work on issues of security and even give them more resources. That's my take on that.
Sorry, Frank, if you don't mind. Yeah, I think that we should not just drift away from it. There isn't enough listening. And it's one of the most important attributes of leadership. If you can't listen, you cannot lead. And then this is one of the big strengths. I mean, I keep talking to my Indian friends, I'm talking about how enough credit has not been given to Rao as Prime Minister for India's turnaround. It was supposed to be a placeholder, and the things that happened. But I bring it home. Enough credit, and Nigeria is very unfortunate. It's not been given to Umaru Musa Yar'Adua as president. He was a listener. He listened to governors. He listened to even ordinary civilian like me. Once Friday afternoon, I still remember, he said to me, "What's wrong with Nigeria?" I said, "You know, I'm a teacher, I will talk." He said, "Talk." And for 2 hours, he sat there just listening to me. You know? So, we have been unfortunate, very unfortunate with losing President Yar'Adua when we lost him. But we need people who go to leadership positions to learn to listen and to consult. That's part of the essence of the policy process. And we're missing it now. This, shut down the border. Nothing, then 2 weeks later you find out, why did we shut it down? What are the consequences? We act before we think. And this is tragedy. This is what Nigeria has been living through. Just thought I should make that small point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for giving me this opportunity. Executive governors and former governors, Your Excellency, the former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Chief Emeka, our traditional leaders, His Royal Highness, the Oba of Onitsha, and the representative of the Emir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols respected. I first should start by wishing a happy birthday to our chief host, Professor Pat Utumi, a man of shining credentials who continues to inspire Nigerians and Africans across the continent. I am deeply honored by the privilege to keynote the 2024 Center for Values in Leadership annual lecture and International Leadership Symposium. In fact, I feel very fortunate to share the podium with my good friend, Professor Peter Luis, one of the most distinguished Africanists in the United States, who's traveled to Lagos to be there in person. I also want to share the wisdom that was shared by Bishop Kuka and other distinguished speakers before him, as well as this wonderful panel of the wise. Let me say that all of the previous speakers have really dived deeply into Nigeria as we see it today. I want to stand on their collective shoulders and project from there to the outside, provide additional context for this brainstorming exercise. It is remarkable that as we gather here today to brainstorm and rub minds about the linkages between democracy, governance, visionary leadership, and development, it is projected that in less than 25 years, Nigeria's population will be at approximately 400 million inhabitants, which means that 1 in every 4 Africans would be Nigerian. It is also projected that should the Fourth Republic endure, and should Nigeria stay on the trajectory of democracy, it would be the second largest populated democracy in the world by 2050, coming only after India. As we know so well, 70% of Nigeria's population is under 30 years old, and almost half is under 15 years. Nigeria, therefore, is a global player and must step up its game. Nigeria, as we all know, is the giant of Africa, literally and figuratively. It must lead the charge and cannot have feet of clay. There is now a collective awareness for those of us who follow global issues of the weight, the voice, the value of giving meaning to the global south, where increasingly populations are saying nothing about us without us. That explains the calls for reform of the UN system with a permanent seat on the UN Security Council for the African continent. That explains the call for reforms of the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and the IMF. That explains even recent actions to provide an African seat on the G20 and all the echoes around that. The world is beckoning for Nigeria to tell the world that here I come. We are also gathered here today at a time when the sub-regional organization ECOWAS is in shambles. We know Nigeria's weight and leadership in the sub-region. It carries the entire sub-region in all aspects: human capital, economic powerhouse, governance model, military might, and you name the rest. Looking internally, Afrobarometer surveys and surveys by
I think there is a network elections were declared. When it was, and somebody will tell you that it was a glitch. It was not a glitch. It was just that some people decide that they will not follow the simple tenets of democracy. That's all. And it is because of one simple thing that it happened. Nobody till today has been punished for that thing that happened. And the bane of Nigeria, and
about how